Welcome to this episode of the Strong Con Podcast. This episode is with Ellyn Halley. Ellyn is a doctor of chiropractic. She is a doula and a pre and postpartum health coach. She is very passionate about strength training and helping women go through the pre and postpartum process successfully. And she is really knowledgeable about all things birth preparation, postpartum, birth. It was a really good conversation. Ellyn's a super cool person. I know her personally and professionally, and she's just very knowledgeable and very passionate and very, very kind. So check out this episode. Let me know how you liked it or disliked it. Hit it up with a comment and appreciate you being here. Thanks. All right. I am joined by Ellyn. Is it Hallie or Haley?
It's Hallie.
I knew that, and then I just balked right at the beginning of this episode. So Ellyn is a friend of mine. She's a chiropractor, doctor of chiropractor, and chiropractor, doctor of chiropractic. But she's also a doula and a strength coach. She's also like a very organized person, which I am not, so I appreciate her for that. But Ellyn, like just all right, give me your elevator speech. That's a horrible way to start this, but give me your elevator speech. Who are you?
So stressful. Well, like you said, I'm Ellyn. I am a chiropractor. I'm a birth doula, full spectrum doula, I guess, trained. Can dive into that.
Yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say you've already piqued my curiosity.
and then I have my bachelor's in exercise science with a minor in nutrition. Um, work for my own business primarily, doing women's health coaching, pelvic health. Kind of unique in the sense that I'm an internally trained pelvic health provider, but I'm not a physical therapist. We can also talk about that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's the basic of me is
Let's
credential.
so let's go to your origin story a little bit here. What made you go into like exercise science and nutrition before you went to chiropractic school?
It's a good question. So when I was growing up, I thought I was gonna be a vet for a long time. Always really loved movement. I actually was a competitive equestrian growing up. I started riding horses when I was eight, 8 or 9, and then started competing when I was 12. And I picked up running actually to basically be in better shape to compete on horseback riding. Joined the track team, fractured my spine when I was a freshman in high school. So went through that rehab journey. A chiropractor was actually the most helpful person for me. And then ran cross country my last 2 years of high school. So like always loved running
Mm-hmm.
and horseback riding. But then I found CrossFit,
Mm-hmm.
drank the Kool-Aid when I was a senior or the summer before my senior of high school. Loved that, loved lifting, loved like getting strong. Kind of went up the deep end there. And then I went to UW-Madison originally for college. Thought I was going to be a biomedical engineer like my big sister.
Yeah.
Hated engineering. Actually loved the engineering class, but I think that's because of like the project part of it. But
Yeah.
I just like I didn't want to sit at a computer. I didn't want to do calculus and like math and things like that.
Look at you now.
You're right. Um, and was honestly just like really unhappy at UW-Madison for like various reasons. I ended up
Yeah.
transferring to UW La Crosse, was able to do research there, which was really fun with actually the football team. Um, Super fun. And then yeah, switched to exercise science and nutrition. The backstory of all that was like I was super sick as a kid, had like horrible GI stuff, chronic rashes. Turns out I had celiac disease.
Okay.
Um, had a bunch of like women's health concerns, like lost my menstrual cycle for a long time, had this weird cyclical illness. It was just like a mess. I had a really great family doctor growing up who was a DO. So I was really kind of interested at that point, maybe going like the DO route, but then also loved like my chiropractor, thought about going the PT route, and then ended up going chiropractic because I really like our scope of practice. We have a
Mhm.
really broad scope of practice, which people don't necessarily realize.
Yeah.
We're somewhat trained as primary care physicians, so we can do blood draws, order blood draws, we learned how to do prostate and pelvic exams in chiropractic school
I'm really
on
glad I didn't learn to do that.
on live humans, which people don't realize. Never have used that skill as a practicing chiropractor. Don't worry. But yeah, I originally went to chiropractic.
Someday it will come in handy.
Hope not. The pelvic exam part, that's been great. The
Yeah.
prostate exams aren't my jam.
No. Yeah, we'll get into the pelvic exam and you talking about internally being internally certified. Um I think that is one thing that chiropractic, so I mean I know you and like I really don't care. Like I don't care what anybody is. Like I really care about like competence, right? Like I think we all just chase a title until like we kind of realize like oh, unless like you're willing to kind of do your own thing or depending on like if you're a physician in a hospital, like your scope of practice is going to be limited. Like you're not an expert at nutrition to people when they're coming to you because their diabetes is so out of control that they just need insulin and like to make sure that their kidneys don't shut down. Like nutrition is a part of your what you know, but like that doesn't matter, right? Like where and I think this is one of the things like me and you to some degree are on the like my goal, my foundational goal is to help people get healthy. How I do that is like talk about their goals and like lift weights and run and do whatever people want to do without getting injured. Um, but like I don't think people realize like yeah, like chiropractors have a very broad scope of practice, which is probably good and bad, right? Um, but it's like that was one thing because I considered did you go to where'd you go? Did you go to Palmer?
I went to Northwestern Health Sciences up in
Okay.
Minnesota.
All right, because I considered like going to chiropractic versus going to PT, and it was kind of that similar debate. Like, um, ultimately, I'm glad I did what I did, but yeah, it really comes down to like getting in front of people and then like being able to have conversations is at the end of the day what we're trying to do and what we're trying to do. Um, it's funny. I liked hearing your meandering path there. So, are you you have celiac disease? Are you like 100% gluten free? Like you have to be, or can you eat a little bit? Like I know like probably not, but I just want to make sure. Like do you cheat? Can you cheat?
No, no, I cannot cheat. I actually got glutened over while I was at the lake house. We were talking about that. I got horribly sick on like day one.
Did you call it I got glutened?
Yeah, that's what we call it.
What
Feels
happened?
good.
Did just something was contaminated that you didn't know about?
Probably a cross contamination.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, like it's actually super nice. We used to live with a bunch of roommates when I moved back to La Crosse, and it was kind of a concern now that we own our house. It's like so nice to just be like our house is 100% gluten free
yeah,
for the most part.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I can do zero gluten. I get really, really sick if I have even like a little bit. So that's this is probably actually like the worst I've been sick in a long time from gluten, but I've been gluten free now for about 12 years. So
I'm sorry to hear that you got gluten. We have a friend that's going through this right now and it's kind of changing her life. And I will be honest, like when people are like, "Oh, I'm going gluten." I don't tolerate gluten. I'm kind of like, "Yeah, like do you just like not take care of yourself?" But like I do like because it is one of those things that became kind of trendy to just be like, I'm off of gluten. And it's like there are legitimate people who like yourself who like you cannot it literally like jacks up your gastrointestinal system, it jacks up your immune system because it's a legitimate allergen, right? Um so how old are you now?
I'm 29.
So you were 17 when you like kind of figured it out.
Yeah. And the process for like finding out that you have celiac is not just like,
It's
oh,
not
I'm
simple.
giving up gluten. It's like I had an endoscopy,
Hmm.
I had blood work done, saw
Hmm.
a blood GI specialist. So at the time it wasn't like
I'll
super
just yeah, like
easy.
I'm just gonna give it up and see,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
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 So, and I also had like horrendous nut allergies. So it's a double whammy there. But
Are you like
no,
allergic to peanuts? Like anaphylactic type of symptoms?
this is like the interesting thing. We actually have a world-renowned like allergy institution in La Crosse, and
Hmm.
so I was tested there in undergrad, and I used to eat like a jar of peanut butter a week when I was at UW Madison,
Yeah.
and then like almonds, like everything. Went and got tested at allergy specialist. Like, you need to stop because you could actually have anaphylaxis to like peanuts and hazelnuts. And I was like,
Yeah, no
interesting.
wonder. No wonder I'm not feeling good. As you're eating peanut butter on the exam table. Just no wonder I'm not doing so
Oh.
hot.
Well, weirdly enough, I stopped eating nuts and like the chronic eczema and leg rashes I had like went away. And I was like,
It's
hmm.
pretty wild, right? It's pretty wild that your gut health and I think there's just such a spectrum of people's responses to foods and stuff that like it's really hard to make blanket statements about like what's going on, but like my skin cleared up as a when I was a kid because I had pretty bad eczema and it really did clear up. I think when I just started actually eating like fruits and vegetables. So it's just like you just start like eating like a human and not like, you just eat a little bit better and there's a spectrum of all that, but it really is. I just always kind of go back to the default mode, and I say that because I'm not like a nutritionist. I don't claim to be, but I do help people. I'm like, just start eating a fruit or vegetable at every meal. Like if you do that, you are moving in the right direction, and you're probably gonna be fuller. And then like eat protein, like protein and a fruit or vegetable at every meal. You're probably on the right track for most people, right?
Totally.
And it's amazing that like most people are not doing that. It's like two bowls of Rice Krispies or corn flakes or whatever at breakfast, and then more carbs at lunch. It's still wild. So, all right, let's talk about equestrian. Do you still ride horses?
Unfortunately, no, not right now. It's just like I'm kind of snobby. I grew up riding English, which is just like the saddle type and like going over like jumps and stuff with the horses. And like
Mhm.
in the area where I live, it's just very like Western. So that's like the big saddle with the horn.
Mhm.
And so if I want to ride, I want to ride English. And so it's just finding a place where I can do that and have the time. They have like lesson horses and stuff because obviously I don't have my own horse. One of my really good friends from chiropractic school actually is an animal chiropractor. And so she had horses. And so when I was up there, she let me ride her horse a few times, which was super fun. But it's been a few years.
You're not
Been
an
a,
only child, right?
no,
Yes. Okay. Because I was gonna make a joke about only children and riding horses. That seems like a common thing.
no.
But so you weren't an only child. So okay, cool. What is it about women and horses, though?
I don't know. I think part of it for me was like my nanny, who's my grandma, people get
Mhm.
confused by that.
Yeah.
My dad actually is from England, so nanny and granddad. But they had a huge stable across from where they lived in Missouri, and it was gorgeous. So we'd go walk over there and feed the horses, and
Yeah.
it was just like growing up, that was really special. And then we had this amazing trainer that lived 10 minutes from me growing up, and so I just kind of got hooked. And horses are, I don't know, they're kind of like big dogs, maybe like
Yeah, they're
a
very
little
they're relatively docile and like right
bit.
there's I mean yes, I don't know Melon, but like they're very in tune with us, right? Like that's a big component of it. Like you're calm, they're calm type of thing, right? Which I think is cool from what I know. And
Yeah.
riding something is cool. Like I can't ride Phoebe. If I could, that would be dope, right? But like yeah, I think there's a lot to it. Even like men, like honestly, cowboys. If I could have a horse and go ride it around town, like I'd be like, this is dope, right? So it's probably
Totally.
just and I think we are connected to them from the standpoint of like for a long time that was our form of transportation and our livelihood probably to some extent. So I don't know.
And for some cultures still is, right? Like
Yeah,
playing in Amish communities here, use horses
yeah,
forever.
yeah, 100%. I was just thinking about Dwight Schrute, like we literally watched the episode where he talks about how he can like harvest meat from a horse and keep it alive like a couple days ago. That's where my brain went.
Oh
Um,
no.
anyway, so all right, let's talk about what makes you so passionate about the birth experience. I don't know, did I use that term correctly? Like the birth experience, the pelvic floor, helping women. Like what got you started in the direction you're in now, and then like why what yeah, like what are you passionate about?
Yeah. it's kind of, again, I feel like it's so windy sometimes, but
That's fine. That's the goal.
I when I went to chiropractic school, I was like, I don't really care about like touching people. Like I didn't want to do manipulations or anything like that. I was just like, I want to do functional medicine, functional health, which is kind of a buzzword. Then kind of learned what that meant, and I was like I don't know if this is quite right for me. Um, but I was very always interested in women's health, partly because in undergrad I actually took a medical anthropology class with this really cool professor. She was awesome. She did research actually on like her master's thesis was complementary and alternative medicine, whatever that means. But
Hmm.
she was doing field work, I think, in Ecuador and had her first child in Ecuador, like in the field basically, while she was doing her research. And like, so she talked about that experience. Then she had a home birth with her second. And that's like the first I'd ever really heard about like not going to the hospital for a birth.
Hmm.
And she talked a lot about like how like our healthcare system isn't the best and like where it's broken
Which
and
is like we're like, no, it's what? Like, don't talk about that. Like, you can't do that, right? That's like our initial, or it's either like, oh, are you serious? Or I'm like, okay, like I'm following you, I get it. But yeah,
yeah.
anyway,
And I had experienced that, right? Like growing up, just
yeah.
like so sick. No one seemed to know what was going on. I was like, take this medication, take this pill. Like, and I wasn't really satisfied with that. So she really, but this course was just very like, I guess, transformational in that way, like learning those things. She talked about like how women in the birth experience are treated as machines. And we can get more into that later. But it was just very like eye-opening. Um, actually did my internship in undergrad with a PT who was great, who definitely did not practice super traditionally like for a PT. And then actually attended my middle sister's first birth. While I was in chiropractic school, I wasn't a doula at the time and was just kind of like, there has to be a better way. Like it was a pretty traumatic birth, unfortunately. And I was like there, but there's a lot going on.
Hmm.
Um, so really kind of like piqued my interest in other ways. And I actually got into doula work originally for like the advocacy piece.
Hmm.
Uh, doulas really are advocates in my eyes. Some training courses would disagree with me there. But the biggest thing for me is like helping people know that they have options, you know, within whatever system they're giving birth in, out of hospital, in hospital, that you have options and like you can have the experience that you want, no matter what that looks like. If you want the epidural with all the medications and whatever, like you can have that. But if you want unmedicated and water birth, whatever, like you can also have that. And you have rights as a person giving birth, basically.
I just so like as you know, like my wife's pregnant, and like we've started to go through the process, and like I can just already see how if you were a passive person or not even a passive person, it just like this is kind of the other way. Like time, people don't have time. Like they don't. It's not set up for slowing things down. It's set up for how do we be most efficient with people, right? And yeah, we can come to the woman as a machine thing, and just but I just think of healthcare as the machine. Um, it's like we should allow the process to be taken out over whatever period of time makes the most sense, right? And then like birth, yeah, like if a C-section is necessary for the health of like the child and the baby, like, and I'm not trying to make blanket statements about anything, like you do what you need to do, but like scheduling a C-section for convenience is something that we've heard of multiple times, and I'm like, is that really what we want to be doing here? Like the convenience of the doctor, even the convenience of like the mom, like just having it done, and like I get it, but like birth is like a natural process, right? Like, and yes, we people can always then straw man that, well, yeah, but we have the ability to do it like better. Well, like what does that mean? Does that mean better for the hospital? Does it mean like, and so it's just like I look at when I because I just got a book on doulas. Somebody sent me a book on doulas. Was it you? Uh, but it's about like the birth experience, which is why I use that word. But it's like having somebody there because if the husband is good at this, or the partner is good at this, then cool. But even then, you might still want a third party, right? For other reasons and whatnot. But like just having a buffer between like if you get a nurse who's just having a bad day, like who brings you in and like stresses you out and then like just like wants to move it. And like same thing with an OB. Like if you just get the person who's like the end of their shift and struggling and it's like, all right, like let's just slow this down. And a lot of times men or partners or the woman doing it, like if you're a doula, you get enough reps to be like, nope, like let's just chill out, right? It's like literally by the time you're actually doing this, I don't know what it looks like, but you have enough reps to be like, hey, how about we just all like pause, and you just don't give a shit because you're just gonna say that because that's what you need to do. Does that make sense? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I think there's some misconceptions about doulas too that we're like there to like butt heads with people, and that's not true. Like
Yeah,
we're there to help the team like flow together well. And
yeah,
I would say like create space for questions to help you ask better questions, because a big thing too is to try not to like speak on behalf of the person giving birth or the partner, to let them speak for themselves as much as possible, but it's helping create that space because you don't know what it's going to be like. I mean, I've attended over 50 births, and it every single one I learned something new, which is super cool. But also, it's just like those communication skills are super important. Ideally, the woman giving birth is just like in that, and her partner is able to like show up and support her the best that they can, and then doula just fills in the gaps there.
yeah,
Um, Helps, yeah, with communication and things like that.
yeah,
Some births I'm like super hands on and like doing all the hip squeezes and stuff. Some I'm like more like a wallflower, just like observing and there if they need me, depending on what they want, what their partner wants.
yeah,
Some people don't do well with fluids, right? Like bodily fluids. And so then
yeah,
I'm a little more involved, and they're more like emotional support, holding hands and things like that. It's
yeah,
really quite like the broad spectrum, but just being able to be like a chameleon that
yeah.
works themselves in where they need to is super important.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good, and that's a good, you made the, yeah, like you're not there to like butt heads or like you're not there to be in, you're really not there to be in control. Like you're just be there to be like a supporter. And I think that's one of the things I think people maybe get in their head, who's like in control of the situation is like, well, kind of the woman giving birth should be the ultimate person, right? And then the people around her as best possible inside their scopes of practice and XYZ, right? So, 50 births. I want to be like, what's been like the biggest lesson from being on that, like that many, in that many? I know that's a tough question.
Honestly, like for me, communication is like essential for all parties, and also like acknowledging that not every person is for you.
Hmm.
Uh, Doula work is obviously like super intimate, and pregnancy is a pretty vulnerable time. And again, this like you want to be able to like enjoy your clients and like care for them, and different personalities sometimes are hard, but communication is just like a very important thing throughout
Yeah.
the process too.
Yeah. Check out Super Communicators. This is a product pitch. Charles the Hig hooked me up with it. It's on my desk, so I had to give it. And it's a very good book. And but I think that's one of the things that we identify in our collective work, like the amount of things that I think that then I should say that I don't out of like fear. And like Ellen knows me too. Like I'm pretty boisterous. Like I do like voice what I'm thinking relatively well, but there's still a lot more. And I think that's some of the big stuff is just like being able to like get out your fears, right? Or just talk things through. Mary was trying to talk something through the other day. I was just tired. I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth for this right now. Which wasn't my best moment as a husband, but that's also the realities of marriage and stuff like that. But that book and just so many other conversations, like communication really is the bedrock of like everything. Like, what are your expectations for communication? What are we talking about? Like, because a lot of times men will be making like an analytical thing, or someone will be making like an analytical or decision oriented thing when somebody else is talking about how they feel, and we don't match up with that at all, right? And that can also be, that's a big thing. That's a big part of the medical system too, is like we're trying to, people, the doctor wants to solve a problem, but the person is thinking about something completely different about, like, you know, their preferences and stuff like that. And, you know, until you get on the same wavelength, it's really hard. Um, Tell me about, yeah, so internal, how you got certified as an internal practitioner and how you did that as a chiropractor. Was there anything you had to do special, or was it just that you wanted to do it?
In the state of Wisconsin, like it's within our scope of practice technically. It's kind of a gray area. Um, and obviously I'm online now, but I have that information, which is super great too. But I went through like the Institute for Clinical Excellence, their pelvic series. I'll be certified with them any day now, which is cool. They
Hmm.
have like two online courses that are 8 weeks long each, and then an in-person one that I did to get internally trained. It's just kind of interesting, right? We learn how to do like pap smears and pelvic exams in chiropractic school in Minnesota. Um, so it's a little different, like with pelvic health, right? We're looking more at like muscles and things like that too. Um, I don't think everyone needs necessarily an internal exam at all, but it's just like information that's useful, right? Like you see the anatomy in person. I mean, we do full dissections in chiropractic school too, but
Really?
yeah, um,
I think we
not
did too. We did do it too. Maybe not of the pelvic floor super detailed, but we did a full dissection of the human body, which was cool. It was overwhelming, but
yes, we did more male anatomy, I feel like, than female, which is
silly.
very interesting. All the men are just clenching themselves, but
Yeah. Yeah, as they go out. Covering themselves and going out. Gosh,
uh,
that was a very eye-opening experience, anatomy in general, because I was a history major. I took like I wanted to go to medical school, so I took orgo and I took all my requisites. But like to get into medical school, they don't really care about like how your anatomy, and so I took like two super easy anatomy courses. And then I went to PT school, and it was just like gross anatomy and dissection was the most overwhelming thing I've ever encountered in my life. Because it's like I'm also not like a memorizer. Like looking back, I'm like I could go and smoke that now, but like it was so much. And we were also dissecting at the same time, and I was horrible at dissecting because I'm not built to like pick through layers of fascia. Like it literally made me want to blow my brains out. Like this is awful.
yeah, see, I loved anatomy, so
Yeah,
but
so you're because you're super. I mean, I feel like you're pretty detail oriented.
yeah, a decent amount,
How do
but
you How does your brain work? Like, what makes you want to go on Trello and organize cards and that type of stuff?
oh, I don't organize that many Trello cards. I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I'm like youngest child, I guess, kind of type A. Um, I don't know. It's just I'm always like figure it out and
Yeah.
get organized in a way that works for my brain. It's super funny. So my boyfriend, he's not this way.
Hmm.
He's very like type B, which is really good for me because I used to be a lot more like rigid in some ways. You know, I'm the kind of person who's like 10 minutes early and he's the 10 minutes late. So like together we can
Yeah.
meet. But I tried to tutor him in statistics when we were in undergrad, which
Hmm.
went really poorly. Uh,
Hmm.
and he was describing it to my dad as like Ellen's brains is like sees like ones and zeros.
Yeah.
Mine sees unicorns and Fruit Loops. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay.
I think that's probably a very because like I'm very idea and imaginative, I think. And like I also think I have undiagnosed ADHD. So I like cuz honestly I switch tasks so fast. And I've had to learn to corral that, but like organizational stuff and my wife Mary like hates this about me. Is like I'll do it. I'll unload the dishwasher 50%, and then I'll walk away, and I'll feel good about the fact I started unloading the dishwasher. And then she'll be like, "Well," and like I have gotten better at. I finished unloading the dishwasher, right? But like, it is just there. People do think differently, which is another big lesson that I've learned. Because I think where I was at a couple years ago is, well, I just have to get people to think like me. And it's like, no, your real job is to try to figure out how people think so that then you can align how they think with what they're trying to do and make it make sense to them. Because people aren't going to think like, I'm not going to think like you necessarily. I can over time, but like, it's better to just be like, this is how Ellyn thinks. Let's figure out how to make it make sense to her and get her clarity so that she can move forward. Right. And just play to her strengths. So, yeah, it's wild. Humans are wild. I think that's like both the really cool thing about us, but also like the really problematic thing, right? Because we all expect each other to like just figure out what we're thinking, and it's like that's not how it works, right? So,
Totally.
um,
I think
it's
it's
funny
like
because yeah, like me and you are similar in a lot of ways, but then like, and then it sounds like me and your boyfriend Jack are similar, and like, and then you and Mary are similar in some ways, and then we're also different, right? It's kind of everybody's got different shades.
totally. Well, I think it's like, right, we're all unique and that we're unique or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Everybody's got a completely different brain. And
Yes.
your brain has the same general components, but it evolved in a different soup and with different circumstances, with different rewards. Like, because if you got rewarded for being organized, but and this is the other thing, like, honestly, men and women, like, men get rewarded for like taking action, even if it's really shitty. Like, women get rewarded for being like organized and kind of like, ready to go. So it's just an interesting game that in that regard. All
Yeah.
right, tell me, sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, no, it's interesting. I grew up with two older sisters,
Hmm.
and my dad's an engineer, and my mom stayed home. And I just think it's like very interesting because I feel like we're all very like the oldest sister and I are very like much similar in some ways, but other ways like different. And I just feel like we were always encouraged like just to like do whatever you like, not just do whatever you want, but like, you know, do the things, take action, and like I guess growing up with like a very prominent like male figure, like my dad was very present, and so we just like did things and didn't think about like our gender necessarily, I guess.
Which is good. Yeah, like which is what you want to have happen. I mean, Mary's dad's an engineer, and Mary has very much the like same analytical tendencies of her father in a lot of regards. And is your older? You said one of your older sisters is an engineer.
Yep, my oldest sister is a biomedical engineer, and then my middle sister is actually an FNP. So
Okay, gotcha. Um, yeah, I think like what you want, and this is something that I think about a lot as we're gonna have a kid, is like I just want them to like the kid to be curious and like see the possibilities and then not feel like because like a lot of my internal narrative is like, oh, you're not like it really stemmed from identify like once kids become self-conscious, they just stop thinking they're good at certain things. Like I stopped thinking I was good at math in fifth grade, even though like I just had probably attention deficit and I just needed to like sit down and have some help, right? But then I gravitated away from sciences and stuff because I just kind of thought it was bad. And then it took school, it took college for me to be like, no, you just have to learn your own way, right? And follow what you're curious about. When it comes to like, all right, you're running races. We're really taking a giant tangent here. You're training for a 50K, right?
yep,
How's it going?
it's going pretty well. Last week got, life happened. I
Yeah.
got sick and we were traveling, so kind of like took an L in that week, but that's okay. We just keep going, figure it out.
You're gonna finish it. Like, even
It's
if
the
you
goal.
just what's have you run a 50K yet before?
No, we did a trail half end of October up in Duluth, which was
Okay.
super fun. But I was like, that's like a good distance for me. I'll be I'll be done. But then I actually did a backpacking trip in October too in Asheville. And the woman that organized that was like, you should do this 50K. And I was like, all right, why not?
Do you feel like jumping into something like that is good for you? Like you just need to pick something and do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. Like I'm just such a routine human in some ways with exercise now. Like even if I don't have something to train for, like we love riding bikes and
Yeah,
mountain biking, running and all the things. So like if I didn't have something to train for, I'd still be doing something.
yeah. Do you feel like you would push though, or like would you push yourself if you didn't have something to train for?
Probably not as hard because obviously like 50K, I really have to get the mileage up there. And I'm trying to hang on. Like my goal is to keep being able to squat and deadlift over 200 pounds
Hmm.
throughout. So
You're gonna have to eat. Yeah.
yeah, that's gonna be the trick is eating. So
No,
far, so good.
I think it's easier to maintain strength at like the level that you're kind of at than people think, especially
Hmm.
if you're not gonna be like a hardcore. I honestly think the more I follow people like Alex Viada and other people who are just doing endurance stuff with strength training, it's like it really just is a matter of, I mean, it's not just a matter of, but like it's just building like your base and being okay with like your base not like growing super fast and like just trusting like yeah, what's my primary goal right now? But if you want to maintain the strength you have, it's like you still gotta squat heavy triples and maintain that stimulus, which can be good or bad. Like I have one of my clients, like she's running, she was like, can I run a half marathon? I'm like, I don't care what you do, but like what are your goals with this? She's like, well, I don't want to like lose any muscle mass. I'm like, well, I can't guarantee you're not going to lose any muscle mass, but like if we work on maintaining your strength, it's going to be fine, and then you just have to build up your mileage. And it's they're a little bit competitive, and a lot of it just boils down, are you willing to eat enough, and can you make this happen? So
Totally.
um
I love food, so
what is yeah, do you have a goal time?
No, just I mean, really just to complete it. Um, had to do a little pivot on the race I'm doing, because of some doula things. So it's gonna be like the weekend before the one I originally was for, and so it's actually gonna be in lacrosse, which will be fun. It's the
Hmm.
trail we run on all the time, so we'll see. I mean, 8 hours would be nice. I feel like, kind of like maybe like,
32 miles, right?
yep.
50K, 32 miles. How much elevation, how much climbing is there on that trail?
It. I think it's about 5,000 total,
Okay.
so decent,
Yeah.
decent.
I mean, that is something I think I'm way more likely to do a trail marathon. I'm probably going to run a marathon at some point just because I feel like it's one of those things I have to do, like if at some point in my life. But trail running actually, I like running, but trail running is fun.
So
Like,
much better. I
yeah.
hate running on the roads. I mean, I've done a road half marathon before, and that you just hurt so bad after. Like,
Because it's like you're
not what
running on freaking the hardest surface we
I-
create as humans.
it's boring. I'm like,
Yeah.
where are the trees? Like stopping and taking pictures of like bunnies and mushrooms and having a nice time out there eating snacks. I don't know. I'm a
Snacks are
fan.
good. Well, there is something too about there's something about running in nature and like cycling. Like I legitimately like yesterday I was having like I just get anxious some days and I like need to go, especially on my rest. It's honestly on my rest days, like the days where I'm not gonna do anything. It's like all right, but going and riding my bike in the woods was like dope, and it was just like fun and relaxing, and like that's kind of why I think trail running is appealing in regard, and you're also just running, and that's also really good for your brain. Um, yeah, I think dude, did you see this video of like these guys were like shitting on people getting into running? Like you got your new sunglasses. Like they were like competitive runners. They were shitting on like people getting into runners and buying the gear.
No, I
Oh my
haven't
God.
seen
It's so silly because it's like literally this is the thing you wanted us to do. Like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, be like, hey, get into running, it's awesome. And now that people are doing it, with their Hokas and their fanny packs, you're like pissed about it, which is just kind of the state of humans, right?
it. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Um,
It's been great. I lost some love for running definitely like I think in undergrad a little bit as I got
mhm.
more CrossFit and then got back to running. It's just been like super fun and honestly it's like good for my brain, especially like last year. That last year was just kind of stressful and it was just nice to get out there and get in nature and I'm a big outdoors like I think nature's like the best thing ever. So
Yeah. I mean, you're very much like a Mother Earth type of character in my brain.
Totally.
How
Yeah.
tall are you? I've just been curious. How tall are you? Or
How
like,
tall do you think I am?
I feel like you're short, but I also kind of picture you as being like not tall, like not like a giant, but I feel like you're 5'3".
I'm technically 5'2.5", but
Okay.
sometimes I round up. It's just funny because Jack is like 6'3", 6'2.5", like that. So he's a good foot taller than me. So like you see us with pictures and I look real short. So
I just know that you have a massive left tricep from a lot of the photos I see of you.
a
Which is
good angle.
very good brand photos. Yeah, it's like I don't know. You just you give like a Mother Earth demeanor and like then like, like Amazon type of thing. I don't know. So, but
Short,
what's
yeah.
what?
I'm just short. I like nature. I like to eat snacks.
No,
Yeah.
those are a good thing. And snacks. All right, so what's your favorite lift?
My favorite lift. Ooh. I've always been a great squatter, so I feel like I have to go with squats.
I mean, you're 5'3". Come on.
Yeah, and I'm like really proportional. Like I'm not like a super I maybe have a little bit shorter torso, but
Yeah.
I'm not like super long in any one area. So like squats have always been fantastic for me.
What's your least favorite one?
I feel like Bulgarian split squats. I
Okay.
hate the passion.
Okay.
Um, but overall, I just like love lifting. People like asking that question. I'm like, I love lift. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's a good. I like that too, and I honestly think I just think it's just really good to take I think what CrossFit did unfortunately to me was put a tremendous amount of this pressure on me to like perform and like I don't mind that, but I just like to go and like just move and try to lift something heavy and like Olympic lifting is very mentally challenging, which is kind of why I enjoy it. But it's just like going and doing the thing and then like just letting it over time take you where you want to go is very, very empowering. Um,
I loved CrossFit. I mean, I stopped
I
doing it
still
when
do.
yeah. I think it's a great thing for a lot of people. I like injured my left shoulder and then I was kind of like, I like powerlifting, bodybuilding. I do miss like I feel like CrossFit does make you feel like a badass though, and you're like doing bar muscle ups and snatches, and you're like, this is cool.
I would love to. So the tricky part about it, and I've talked to a few other like people, like the hard part is what happens is you start a CrossFit gym and like why 90% of your people are gonna come there is because they want like the daily grinder, right? And then you have like 10% who want to like, and then this isn't to say that people can't get fit in like the daily grinder type of thing, but like good training that gets you better at CrossFit isn't necessarily that, right? It's probably like, hey, squat, bench, some form of like pulling thing on Monday with like a quick WOD, right? Chill cardio on Tuesday, maybe do a hard WOD or a run or something, and then it's the same kind of format near the end of the week. Like people don't really love to do that. Like, I mean, people do, like we obviously do, but
Yeah,
not in the group structure, like most of the time.
right.
So and then there's a lot to it, but yeah, I'm with you. I love it, and I still really think about, oh, what could I do to like get this, like make a CrossFit gym like the way I want it. And a lot of it's just I have so much freedom in my work now that it's good not to. um but yeah, I'm with you. It definitely does feel like, and it's also there is something about like sweating with friends that is really cool, right? So
Mhm. Great
I think
community. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like I was like a soft spot, so like it's what got me into lifting, and
Hmm.
so definitely
Yeah.
like kind of like led me down this path.
Yeah.
But
No, I think it's good. All right, what is your biggest pet peeve? When it can be either like women's health related or birthing related or anything.
hmm, I just feel like women being made to feel fragile and like vulnerable, like that's probably it for me. The whole like, oh, you shouldn't lift because you have prolapse or diastasis recti or XYZ or you're pregnant, so you shouldn't do these things. And yeah, I guess this women having like their autonomy and power taken away.
Probably a good one. Yeah, that's.
Big one.
That is a good one. I love how you called it recti because I call it recti. So, am I wrong?
No, I don't think so. It's like a
It's like
perineum, perineum. I don't know. That's a
yeah, that's
aggressive one.
I think I say perineum. Which what do you say?
I say
Perineum?
perineum.
Okay,
The
so then
doula I work with a lot, she says perineum.
perennium. Yeah, maybe I say perennium.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
say perennium that often, so not nearly
Maybe
as
not
much.
more with Mary being pregnant, but
Yeah, not, maybe a little bit more. I started saying cervix more. That's something that's popped up a few more times in my lexicon the last couple of weeks. So,
explain to you more about the mucus plug. I don't know.
yeah, thank you for that. I'm still deciding if I'm going to be down at the feet or near the head. I'm trying to figure that out. I'm good with fluids and I'm good with blood and I'm good with that type of stuff. I've been in those situations. I'm just not sure if I'm good with my wife's stuff. And we'll see what I
Yeah.
probably will be wherever. So,
I've had
um,
dads catch babies before, and it's super cool.
yeah, I'm sure that's
Not, it's not like what you think it is, I guess. We don't have to
yeah.
talk about that. But
I don't know what I think it is. I'm thinking of like alien coming out of the stomach or whatever. Like it's not that, right? So,
no, their heads do kind of look like little raisins just
it's
because of the
weird,
molding.
right? How like much pressure and like that like you don't think about that. Like my niece, I love my niece. They have a picture of her like within a few hours and her head just looks still super misshapen. I mean, it's because it is misshapen. It's still, until it's like normalized, right? Because it's, they don't have their skull isn't formed. But
It's
I just remember that
it's
picture. She's like a cone head and then, kind of normalized.
a
So
good thing. It's a good
yeah.
thing when you're cold-headed.
Yeah, 100%, right? Gosh. Women are definitely the stronger of the sexes. I will say that for sure. So,
Yeah, we know. Yeah.
yeah, I know that you know. All right. This is good. I appreciate you doing this with me. I appreciate you coming on. Pitch yourself for me here near the end. Where do
Oh,
we find you and what would someone reach out to you for?
yeah. My Instagram is ellynhalley.dc. It's a great place to find me. Lots of educational content. I do have a website, it's dochalleysolutions.com. Really any woman looking for like general improvement in her health, getting into an exercise routine and working on nutrition. Anyone with like pelvic health concerns, looking for guidance, support, and then same with like pregnancy, postpartum. I have an online birth prep, have prenatal programs, have postpartum rehab, a lot of things, and then also offer a local birth doula. And I teach, I love this, but like I teach a local birth education. So that's been super fun. So if you're in Wisconsin or if you're in Iowa, you could drive up. But
I was gonna say, how far do you go for being a doula? Is it like 100-mile radius or what is it?
I I've gone as far as 4 hours. One of my really good friends gave birth last summer actually in Chicago area. So that was
Gotcha.
about 4 hours. Depends. If you're special to me, I'll come to you, basically.
Okay. All right.
Prefer for like local to like be like 30 to 45 minutes, but
Yeah, I gotcha. Because it's a lot. I think I've talked to you shortly after like a 3-day type of experience, and like your world is definitely like different from mine, which is good. I'm glad that you're there and it's your passion and it's really good. So, I also noticed that I noticed a post that was like Doc Halley Solutions. I'm like, oh, we solutions now. I like that. Like I like that branding, which is good. So yeah, I love it.
yeah,
Um,
we're working with it.
yeah,
I don't know. We're figuring it out.
yeah, that's all you can do, one day at a time. I appreciate you as always. I will link Doc Ellyn Halley's. Right? Did I say that? God, now I'm in my head about your last name. Yeah,
Yeah, you said it right. Yeah.
yeah. Like I'm like now I'm gonna say Haley. Uh, I will link to your Instagram and I'll probably throw in your website there at the end too. So yeah, cool. Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for this. I appreciate you. I'll have you back on sometime.
Yeah, this is great. Anytime.
All right. Peace.
So, yeah.